Hey everyone, it's Jake, and today we are going to be talking about Shadow Palace gear, and I'm going to try to explain you which set is good and which set you want to be aiming for and what kind of substat you want to aim for once you acquire those gears. There's a couple different gears you definitely want to aim for, and it is considered as a mid-range gear, so it should be a lot easier to kind of obtain the gear and try to finish up certain sets and such, because you are able to also refill the entrance ticket with Eternium now. So it's going to be much easier to gain more gears per week compared to what it used to be like. So anyways, let's jump into video and talk about all the gears that you are able to get within Shadow Palace and which gears to keep it around and use it. So let's talk about how to farm the gear itself first. First of all, you will have to unlock the Shadow Palace dungeon by clearing main story. Once you do that, the dungeons will be open, then you can start spending entrance tickets to enter the stage. This entrance ticket will be generated every daily reset, and also you can buy up to 6 times more every day. So essentially you can run 7 times a day if you really want to, but I think filling up to 3 times the first 3 is probably worth it, and unless you're a giant mega whale, I don't really recommend going for anything the further, but running 4 times a day should be more than enough, especially if you unlock up to 5th stage. So try to do that best way as possible. It should be pretty easy to clear up to stage 2, and by now if you have SSR ship and such, stage 3, stage 4 shouldn't be hard. I think stage 5 is probably the most challenging one compared to other ones, depending on which gears you have. But if you can clear up to stage 5, that should be pretty good. I mean, even stage 4, you should be getting decent amount anyways. So once you clear the stage, you are able to sweep the stage pretty easily as well, and each time you do it, so you are going to be getting the shadow fragments. You can use the shadow fragment in Shadow Palace shop, and you can buy these molds. Molds will be used to craft the Shadow Palace gear. Blue ones will be giving you the Phantom Gears, which is defensive gear, and the green ones will be giving you Spectral Gears, which is offensive DPS style gears. You can also buy the set binary every month and tuning binary every week, and that should be your first priority actually. Those ones you definitely want to empty out. Then you kind of want to move on to buying the purple one, which will be guaranteeing you with the SSR gears, and buy the rest that's on the discount. I think buying up to 75% discount is worthwhile. 50% if you have that much fragment laying around, but I think 50% is a little bit overkill unless you are refilling every day. So adjust it on depending your playstyle, but if you can't afford it, I guess buying up to 50% is not a bad idea either. So once you start crafting gear, you are going to come across many different set options that's available for the Spectral Gear as well as the Phantom Gear. So we'll talk about Spectral Gears first, and in this situation there is 6 different sets, and I'm going to tell you which set you really want to be keeping around and the best one that you can get out from Spectral Gear pool. First one, of course, is a bullet set. It's a very flexible set, giving you attack and hit rates for 2-piece set bonus. So if you equip 2 of these, you are able to get 20% and 20% hit rates, and that is very good set options. Doesn't matter if it's soldier, mechanic, or counter units, they can all utilize the set. So this is the first set that's universally considered as very good on all these different characters. Second set, I would say that's very similar to bullet set when it comes to being flexible and good on pretty much all the characters, is the blade set. Blade set will be giving you attack and attack speed for the 4-piece set bonus, so it's going to be much harder to finish this set actually, but once you finish this set, you'll be very satisfied, and you can definitely spend your resources to precision this gear and get the substat you want. So this is the 2 set you definitely want to keep it around and use it. So we talked about those 2 sets, and let's talk about the other 4 sets. Spectral Spirit set is definitely not that bad. It's actually pretty good for counter units, but if it's a soldier or a mechanic spirit set, it is pretty useless in these days. So I would definitely not keep it around unless you are kind of free with your storage room, but at this point you are probably start to feeling like storage room is getting kind of shorter and shorter, so you definitely want to be keeping the gold SSR counter one version. But other than that, I think you wouldn't regret too much even if you throw it out. Smite set is also another kind of niche set, and only few characters can utilize it, or hardcore danger close player trying to utilize this set because it has a crit damage and attack. So I'll definitely keep this one if it's a gold one, but if it's not gold one, I'll definitely kind of throw it out, and I don't think you'll regret it that much. As long as you keep the gold one, I think that should be more than enough. Chain set is another one that's even lower when it comes to usage. It's definitely far away from meta. I think it's okay if you don't have any gears, that you just want to equip it sake of kind of finishing up the set bonus. Then yeah, let's say if you got 2 chain set, that's 20% attack and 20% crit, so that's definitely not that bad. But it's not something you want to be spending your tuning binary either. You definitely want to save those for other gears or the bullet or blade set. So try not to use a tuning binary on it, just trying to equip it to finish the set bonus. Gear set, of course, is the bottom of this set option list, and I definitely do not recommend this one. If you got this one, that's kind of loose. Even the gold one kind of thing, I think I would just throw away unless you have tons of set binary to kind of play around with it because you're a whale. But at that point, I think you better spending your set binary on other gears like maze gears and gorgeous gears and such. So I definitely recommend you to avoid to do anything with the Spectral Gear set. So let's kind of summarize it. Bullet and the blade set is definitely the one you want to be aiming for. Spirit set, if it is counter gear, try to keep it. Smite set, if it is gold one, try to keep it. And the chain and gear sets, I would definitely kind of avoid using it altogether. So now you obtain the gear set you want. For example, I have a blade set right here. So as you can see, I pushed it down all the way. So let's talk about which kind of options that you want to keep it around and use for the perfect piece of gear you just got. We'll talk about the option 1 for weapon. Let's start with that. I think you definitely want to keep around either striker or the defender damage, because those are the enemies that are usually going to be annoying you the most, and you want to melt down ASAP so you can reach to other enemies in the backline. So going for striker or defender damage is probably the best option for you. When it comes to option 2, anti-ground damage, as you can see I have on this gear, is probably the best and universally used on pretty much all the characters that exist within this game. But let's say if you got attack speed or crit damage, it's definitely not bad either, and I would definitely keep it around because especially early on you are going to be lacking tuning binaries, but eventually you kind of want to transition into anti-ground damage once you have more than enough set binaries to play around. But if you got attack speed or crit damage, don't feel bad too much, just trying to use those set option as well. Speed and anti-air damage is very niche and I don't really recommend it. So if you have those, try to roll it and you should get either attack, crit damage or anti-ground damage pretty easily. Moving on to chest piece, which is armor piece as well, you still want to be focusing on striker defender damage. Like I said, you want to stack up this as much as possible, and this way you can maximize damage potential against those two types of units. If it is the counter, you can definitely utilize both anti-ground damage as well as a skill haste as well as crit damage res. If it is not counter units, as you can see, I'm using on my soldier class units, then you kind of want to have either anti-ground damage or crit damage resistance. That's also not bad either. So I have a crit damage resistance, so I just went along with it. I mean, of course, I can spend tuning binaries to change to anti-ground damage, but I don't think it's going to be giving me that much difference. So I'm just going to keep this one and use it and save my tuning binary basically. Moving on to sub-slot, which is accessory gears, and it's going to be still similar, so you will see anti-striker damage and defender damage. As you can see, I have anti-striker damage on it, so that should be more than good enough. And the bottom option should still be anti-ground damage, because like I said, 99% of enemies you fight within this game will take this damage, so anti-ground damage is perfect on this gear. Once again, if you are trying to use the counter units, skill haste is definitely not a bad option either. So if you got either anti-ground damage or skill haste, you should be more than happy and trying to use those gears as well. Crit damage also is possible, so if you got the crit damage, as you can see, I'm not going to bother spending my tuning binaries to kind of change into anti-ground damage here, because that feel like won't be that much return honestly. So I'm just going to be keep using this and pretty satisfied with what this gear does to my character. So after you got all the stats, you are going to be getting tons of type damage. So I got anti-striker damage, 58%, so almost 59%. That is amazing. And I got some anti-ground damage, which is almost 30%. I would have had it more if one of the pieces wasn't giving me crit damage, so that's very nice. So as you can see, now I can melt the striker unit very well, especially Warden. Since it's a sniper class, it will be doing great damage to striker units. So that should be you kind of understanding of how Spectral Gears work. You definitely want to stack all the damage options that you can get from the gears, then you should be good and you should be able to melt those bosses or certain enemies within PvP if they're striker or defender or whatever kind of type damage you want to kind of focus on. But universally, striker and defender damage are the ones that you are going to be facing most of the time and trying to melt down quick as possible. So trying to focus onto those stats and you should be good. So we talked about Spectral Gears. Now let's talk about the Phantom Gears, which is a defensive versions of gears that you can get from the Shadow Palace. I think set options is actually much more simple compared to Spectral Gears. I think Phantom Armor set is just one that stands out the most out of any other sets that you can acquire from this section of the list. So HP and the 10% defense is just pretty insane for 2-piece set bonus. So if you equip 2 of these, you are going to be getting 20% HP as well as 20% defense. So that sounds pretty insane, and they are pretty insane. So I would definitely say Phantom Armor set just wins the game. And whenever you get the Phantom Armor set, you'll be like, damn, I just won the game. So you definitely want to keep those gears. Doesn't matter gold or purple, just keep those gear and you should be happy. Now, moving on to any other sets, I think they all have a certain usage. And I think average performance is definitely better than the Spectral Gear sets, because Spectral Gear set had a stupid evasion stuff, crit rates and stuff like that, so they're less flexible. Where these gears, I think they're all pretty good in standard because it gives a 10% HP to start up with, so I would say that's pretty meaningful for any tank units. And crit damage shreds is definitely not that bad for PvE. Skill haste is pretty decent if it is counter tank units. The glare set, it's okay. Barrier set is kind of mean, but I guess it's okay. Evasion, I guess it's okay. So they are all okay. I guess it's just the armor set is the one that stands out so good compared to the others. So I would definitely say keep the armor set and rest. Whatever you get it, if you want to keep it, you should keep it. If you want to throw it out, you should throw it out. Honestly, I wouldn't really care too much about any other sets. I think focusing on the Phantom Armors will be the best in the long run and will be least confusing. So we talked about set options, let's move on to individual pieces and what kind of options that you kind of want to have on these gears. Option 1, of course, I think is actually opposite as the Spectral Gears. A lot of times when you're using your tank units, they are usually going to be striker or defender units. So focusing on to anti-sniper damage res or anti-ranger damage res will be probably most efficient depending on which class they are. Because snipers will do more damage against strikers and rangers will do more damage against the defenders. I'm not saying defender or striker damage res is bad, especially probably for PvP as well, but a lot of situations, the ones that's going to be doing a lot of damage to you is probably enemies, backline snipers, and backline ranger units. So I think those are the two stats you kind of want to focus on. Now, the weapon for this is probably balance reason. Option is still same as the Spectral set. So it doesn't have any basically defensive capability. So I guess best one is attack speed or just ignore it altogether. I don't think it's really worth it because your character won't be doing damage if you're tank units. I mean, you can try to stack up the damage options, but it won't be as good. So I'll definitely move on to giving attack speed. That's the best one for the weapon parts, and any other options are just meh. So I guess it's pretty simple for it, eh? Moving on to the armor slots, we are going to be doing the same thing when it comes to damage res. You kind of want to stack up the ranger or the sniper damage res, and that should be universal. You can definitely have a skill haste if it's a counter units, or focusing onto anti-ground damage res or crit damage res. Whatever one of those is definitely works in my opinion. So in here, I would definitely change this to something like skill haste. Actually, not that great on the mechanic units. Bingo. So anti-ground damage res, awesome. I got lucky here. But anyways, that's what you kind of want to focus on too. Moving on to accessory slots, you definitely want to have something similar, anti-ranger or sniper damage. I'm not saying striker or defender damage resistance is bad, it's just saying kind of will find yourself more used to with the sniper or the range damage, right? So there's that. Option 2, we definitely want to change into skill haste, crit damage res, or anti-ground damage resistance. Let's see if we can get lucky once again. Air damage res, status effect, bingo. So yeah, that is pretty much it, and I think I want to kind of do the same here, but that's a barrier set, so I don't want to do that. So armor set, yeah, we are pretty good. So that is pretty much it, and I should end the video here, because if I keep talking, I think it will cause more confusions, so I'll just finish myself here. We talked about how to acquire the Spectral as well as the Phantom Gears, and we talked about which set option that's viable and you really want to go for, and what kind of options you want to have on those pieces of gears, talking about weapons, case, as well as accessory parts, and what kind of options that you want to precision out. Hope this video cleared out for you, like once again, and we'll also talk about the Britra as well as inhibitor gear in the future, which will be kind of upgrade of the Phantom Gear as well. So yeah, that is pretty much it. This is Jake. I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.